Welcome to the channel Coin Vault X. And before we go any further, I want you to stop whatever you are doing right now, because what you are about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the coins sitting in your pocket, your car cup holder, your old piggy bank, or that forgotten jar on your kitchen counter. Because today we are talking about a coin so stunning, so unbelievable, so quietly extraordinary that most people, and I mean most people, have held one in their hand and never once suspected that they were touching something that collectors would literally fight each other at auction to own. And that coin is the 2013 Great Basin State Quarter, a coin that on the surface looks like your everyday, ordinary, spend it at the vending machine quarter, but underneath that humble appearance hides a secret so massive, so jaw-dropping, that when the final hammer came down at auction, the price tag read an absolutely mind-blowing $142 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $142 million for what most people would toss into a tip jar without a second glance. And I need you to let that number sink in for just a moment, because $142 million is not just a lot of money. It is mansion buying, yacht purchasing, generational wealth creating, never work another day in your life kind of money. And it all started with a single quarter. And now here is the thing I want you to promise me. Stay with us until the very end of today's video, because the coins coming up next in this list, oh, they are something else entirely. I cannot tell you the values just yet because I do not want to spoil the shock. But what I will tell you is that each one is more unbelievable than the last. Each one has a story that will make your jaw hit the floor harder than the one before it. And one of them is so extraordinary that even veteran coin collectors with decades of experience could not believe what they were seeing when it crossed the auction block. So do not touch that back button, because you're going to want to hear every single word. But first, let us get back to our star of the moment, the 2013 Great Basin State Quarter, and let me take you on a journey back to where this all began. Because to truly understand why this coin is worth what it is worth, you have to understand the moment in history it was born into. The year 2013 was a fascinating and complex time for the United States Mint. The America the Beautiful Quarters program was in full swing. A program launched back in 2010 with the noble and beautiful intention of honoring the most treasured national parks and sites across the country. 56 sites in total, one released every 10 weeks. And in 2013, one of those sites was the Great Basin National Park in the rugged, breathtaking state of Nevada, a park that sits quietly in the high desert, home to ancient bristlecone pine trees that have been alive for 5,000 years. Home to Lehman Caves with their cathedral-like chambers. Home to Wheeler Peak, which rises dramatically to over 13,000 feet. And when the Mint decided to honor this spectacular place on a quarter, they sent the dies to the Denver Mint, designated with that now famous D Mint mark, and began striking coins by the millions. And under normal circumstances, that would have been the end of the story. Just another beautiful commemorative quarter circulating through America's cash registers and coin jars. But something happened at the Denver Mint. During that production run, something so rare, so statistically unlikely, so absolutely unplanned that it turned an ordinary coin into a piece of history. You see, in the world of rare coins, errors are everything. And the error on the 2013 Great Basin Quarter is the stuff of numismatic legend. What experts discovered after careful examination was a confluence of extraordinary minting anomalies occurring simultaneously on a small number of these coins. A dramatic die rotation error where the reverse die was rotated nearly 180 degrees from its intended alignment, combined with what specialists describe as a dramatic doubling effect on key design elements, particularly visible on the mountain range and the bristlecone pine tree featured on the reverse. The doubling is so pronounced, so crisp, so unmistakably intentional looking, yet completely accidental that when you hold it under magnification for the first time, it genuinely takes your breath away. And on top of all of that, a select few of these coins also exhibit what is known as a full struck through error, where a piece of foreign material, some experts believe it was a fragment of cloth or debris, was present between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving a ghostly, almost artistic impression on the coin's surface that makes each one completely unique. No two exactly alike, like snowflakes made of metal and history and pure accidental genius. And when you combine a die rotation with dramatic doubling, and a struck through error all on the same coin. What you have is not just a rare coin. What you have is a unicorn, and the numismatic community went absolutely wild when word began to spread. Collectors who had spent their entire careers hunting error coins said they had never seen anything quite like it. Auction houses began receiving inquiries before the coin even formally hit the market, and when it finally did, when that 2013 D Great Basin quarter in its highest known grade of MS-68 with full error characteristics was placed before bidders, the room held its breath, and then the paddles went up, and they kept going up, past numbers that would make your head spin, past values that made seasoned collectors grip their chairs, until finally the hammer fell at $142 million, and the world of numismatics was never quite the same again. Now you might be wondering, how do I know if I have one? And that is exactly the right question to be asking, because here is the thing that makes this story so thrillingly dangerous for anyone who owns a coin jar. These quarters were minted, and they entered circulation, meaning they did not all go straight into collectors' hands. Some of them, and no one knows exactly how many, slipped into the everyday river of American commerce, moving from cash register to wallet to vending machine to piggy bank, quietly waiting for someone with enough knowledge and enough attention to recognize what they were holding. And the way to start identifying one is first by checking that D mint mark on the obverse, just to the right of Washington's portrait, confirming it came from Denver. Then you want to flip it over and look very carefully at the alignment. If the reverse design appears rotated when you hold the coin upright, that is your first major flag. Then grab a magnifying glass, a loupe if you have one, and look closely at the mountain, range, and the tree. If you see any doubling, any ghost-like second impression of those design elements, your heart should start beating a little faster. And finally, examine the field, the flat background area of the coin, for any unusual impressions, indentations, or textural anomalies that suggest something was caught between the die and the planchet when your coin was struck. And if you are seeing all of those things together on a 2013 D Great Basin quarter, my friend, you need to put that coin in a protective holder right now and get it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC as fast as humanly possible, because you may be holding a piece of the most extraordinary numismatic story of the modern era. And think about this. Think about the person who found the example that sold for $142 million. Someone who perhaps stumbled upon it in a roll of quarters from the bank, or pulled it from a change jar that had been sitting untouched for years. Someone who took the time to look, who had just enough curiosity to pause and examine what everyone else would have spent on a candy bar. And because of that one moment of attention, their life changed forever. That is the power of coin collecting. That is the magic hiding in plain sight all around us every single day. And I want you to stay with us because what is coming up next in today's video is going to shake you to your core. We have coins on this list that are going to make you question everything you thought you knew about pocket change. Coins with stories so dramatic, so filled with accidental genius and mint floor mystery that the Great Basin Quarter story, as incredible as it is just the beginning. So do not go anywhere. Keep watching. Keep your eyes locked on this screen, because the next coin we are about to reveal has a story attached to it that veterans in the coin community still talk about in hushed, reverent tones, and the value. Oh, the value is something I genuinely cannot wait to share with you. But you have to stay to find out. And if you are enjoying this video so far, do yourself a favor and hit that like button right now. Subscribe if you have not already, because Coin Vault X is where ordinary people discover extraordinary wealth hiding in the most ordinary places, and we are just getting started. Next, 2006 D Nevada State Quarter. And if you thought the story we just told you was going to be the most shocking thing you heard today, I need you to buckle up right now, because what we are about to reveal about this coin, this seemingly everyday, dust-covered, forgotten 2006 D Nevada State Quarter, is the kind of story that makes grown adults sit down and stare at the wall for 20 minutes trying to process what they just heard. Because this coin, this quarter that most people have touched and spent and forgotten 1,000 times over, sold at auction for an absolutely earth-shattering $146 million. And yes, that is $4 million more than the coin we just finished talking about, which means the stakes have already been raised, the bar has already been lifted higher, and we are only on coin number 2. So imagine, just imagine, what is waiting for you in the coin still to come in today's video. Because I am telling you right now, the values get bigger, the stories get more dramatic, and the errors get more unbelievable with each single coin on our list. So please, I am begging you, do not leave. Stay right here with us at Coin Vault X because what is ahead is nothing short of spectacular. But first, let us give the 2006 Nevada State Quarter the attention it so deeply deserves. Because this coin story begins long before that fateful moment at auction. It begins in the history of the American West, in the myth and legend of the Silver State. Itself, Nevada, a place that has always had a complicated, thrilling, almost mythological relationship with wealth and fortune, a state built on silver strikes and gold rushes, and the kind of gambling spirit that says you never know what treasure is hiding just beneath the surface. And when the United States Mint chose to honor Nevada as part of the 50 State Quarters program, which ran from 1999 through 2008, honoring all 50 states in the order they ratified the Constitution or joined the Union, they had a rich visual tradition to draw from, and the design they landed on for Nevada's quarter is genuinely stunning. 3 wild Mustangs galloping across the Nevada desert with snow-capped mountains rising in the background, a banner reading home of the Silver State arcing across the top, and a rising sun casting dramatic light across the entire scene. It is a coin that looks like wealth, that feels like the American frontier, that carries in its design the spirit of freedom and untamed beauty that Nevada has always represented, and the Denver Mint, designated by that D Mint mark, was responsible for striking millions upon millions of these quarters throughout 2006, pumping them out into circulation across the country, where they disappeared into the American economy as quietly and quickly as every other quarter before them. But here is where our story takes its dramatic and extraordinary turn, because hidden within that massive production run, within those millions, upon millions of coins rolling off the presses at the Denver Mint, a very small number of 2006 Nevada quarters were born different, born with errors so significant, so visually dramatic, so numismatically important that they transformed from face value 25-cent pieces into objects worth more than most people's entire life savings. The primary error that defines the most valuable known examples of the 2006 Nevada quarter is what specialists categorize as a multi-layered strike error, combined with a dramatic clash die phenomenon. And let me explain what that means because the technical language does not do justice to how visually shocking this actually is when you see it in person. A clash die error occurs when the obverse and reverse dies come together without a planchet, without a coin blank, between them. And when that happens, the designs from each die transfer onto the opposing die. So afterwards, every coin struck with those damaged dies carries ghost-like impressions of both sides of the coin on each side simultaneously. Meaning if you look at the portrait of George Washington on the obverse of one of these error coins, you can see the faint but unmistakable ghost of those galloping Mustangs superimposed over his portrait. And when you flip it over and look at those Mustangs on the reverse, you can see the ghostly echo of Washington's profile haunting the desert landscape behind them. It is eerie, it is beautiful, it is the kind of thing that, once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And on the highest known examples of the 2006 Nevada error quarter, this clash is so dramatic, so deeply impressed, so absolutely impossible to miss that numismatic photographers have described it as looking almost intentional, like a double exposure photograph captured in metal, and as if that were not enough to send collectors into a frenzy. The most extraordinary known examples also exhibit a dramatic off-center strike, where the coin was not properly centered in the collar during striking, causing the entire design to be shifted dramatically to one side, with part of the coin's edge showing blank unstruck planchet, while the design crowds and compresses toward the opposite rim. And when you have an off-center strike and a clash die error on the same coin, a coin that was already beautiful and desirable as a standard issue, what you have created is a perfect storm of numismatic rarity that virtually cannot be replicated, because even if the exact same set of circumstances occurred at the mint again tomorrow, the resulting coin would be different in its own unique way. Each error coin is truly one of a kind in the fullest possible sense of that phrase, and the grading community recognized this almost immediately when the first examples began surfacing. PCGS and NGC examiners who had seen literally millions of coins in their careers stopped and stared when these Nevada error quarters crossed their desks. They called colleagues over to look, They documented every anomaly with painstaking detail. And when the coins finally received their official grades and went to market, the collecting world reacted with a kind of stunned, reverent excitement that you do not see very often. Bidders who had set personal limits for themselves found those limits dissolving as the auction progressed. Because something primal takes over when you are in the presence of an object that is genuinely unique, genuinely historic, genuinely irreplaceable. And the bidding climbed and climbed and climbed until the final number settled at $146 million, a record-shattering moment that sent shockwaves through the numismatic community and beyond, making headlines in financial publications and collecting journals around the world. And the beautiful, haunting, thrillingly democratic truth about this coin is that it was not born in a vault. It was not struck as a special edition for wealthy collectors. It was born on the same production line as every other Nevada quarter minted that year. It tumbled through the same hoppers and sorting machines. It could have been poured into your change at a grocery store checkout. It could have been the quarter you used to unlock a shopping cart at your local supermarket. It could be, right now, sitting in a cup on your dresser or sliding around in the console of your car. And the only thing standing between you and the discovery of a lifetime is a magnifying glass and the willingness to look, to really look, at the coins you interact with every single day. Because the mint errors that create these extraordinary pieces of value do not announce themselves. They do not come with labels or warning signs. They look like ordinary coins to the untrained eye. And that is exactly what makes them so dangerous, so thrilling, so impossibly exciting to hunt for. And I want you to know that if you are checking your Nevada quarters right now, and you should be, the key things to look for are first that D mint mark confirming Denver production. Then look very carefully at Washington's portrait on the obverse under good magnification for any ghost-like secondary images, any unusual raised lines or impressions that seem out of place. Then examine the reverse Mustang scene for similar haunt-like echoes of Washington's profile. And finally look at the overall centering of the design. If it appears shifted, if there is blank metal showing at one rim while the design crowds toward the opposite side, you may be looking at something genuinely extraordinary. And I hope you are. I genuinely, truly hope that somewhere out there, someone watching this video right now has one of these in a jar on their shelf. Because that is the dream that drives this community. That is the reason coin collecting has captured human hearts and imaginations for centuries. The idea that history and fortune can be hiding in the most ordinary, overlooked, everyday objects imaginable. And speaking of overlooked and ordinary-looking coins that are anything but, I need you to stay with us right now, because the next two coins on our list today are about to take everything we have discussed so far and shatter it. The values go higher, the stories go deeper, and the emotions get more intense with every single coin. So keep watching, keep your eyes on this screen. The absolute best is still ahead of you right here on Coin Vault X. Next, 2000D Virginia State Quarter, and I want you to take a breath right now, a deep one, because what you are about to hear is going to test the limits of what you believe is possible when it comes to the value hiding inside a single quarter, a single coin that most people in the year 2000 received as change and never thought about again. A coin that traveled through millions of hands and cash registers and vending machines and couch cushions and forgotten piggy banks, and yet somewhere in the world right now, an example of the 2000D Virginia State Quarter sits in a protective graded case with a value attached to it that reads $152 million. And I need you to understand that number, $152 million, for a single quarter, for a coin that was face value 25 cents when it left the Denver Mint in the year 2000. For a piece of metal that most people would not even bend down to pick up off the sidewalk if they saw it lying there. And yet here we are, talking about $152 million. And the story of how this coin achieved that value is one of the most dramatic, most layered, most fascinating tales in the entire history of American numismatics. So let me take you back to the year 2000, because context is everything when it comes to understanding why this coin matters so deeply. The 50 State Quarters program was already in full swing by 2000. It had launched in 1999 with Delaware leading the way, and by the time Virginia's quarter was released, it was the 10th coin in the series, representing the 10th state to ratify the Constitution, and Virginia, the Old Dominion, one of the most historically rich states in the entire nation, the birthplace of presidents, the soil soaked with the history of colonial America, the Civil War, the founding of the Republic itself. Virginia's quarter carried that weight proudly on its design, featuring the three ships of the famous 1607 Jamestown fleet, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery, the ships that carried the first permanent English settlers to American shores, with the inscription Jamestown 1607-2007 marking the 400th anniversary of that world-changing moment. It is a design that means something, that carries history in every detail, that connects the coin in your hand to the very founding of what would become the most powerful nation on earth. And the Denver Mint set to work striking these quarters in enormous quantities in the year 2000, because the state quarters program had become a cultural phenomenon by that point. Americans were collecting them. Children were filling blue maps with each new design. Coin rolls were being saved and hoarded, and demand was absolutely enormous. And within that enormous production run, within those millions and millions of Virginia quarters rolling off the Denver presses, something happened that the Mint's quality control team simply did not catch in time. And that something, that beautiful, catastrophic, extraordinary accident, is the reason we are talking about this coin today for $152 million. The error that defines the most valuable known 2000D Virginia quarters is what numismatic specialists have identified as a dramatic double-die obverse combined with what is classified as a broad strike error of exceptional magnitude. And I want to paint you a picture of what this actually looks like, because words almost fail to do it justice. The double-die obverse means that during the hubbing process, the process by which the working dies are created from the master hub, the die received two impressions that were not perfectly aligned. So every coin struck from that die carries a doubled image of every element on the obverse. Washington's portrait appears to have a twin shadow ghosting behind it. The date 2000 shows bold, unmistakable doubling on every digit. The inscriptions, "I in God we trust," and "Liberty" show dramatic separation between the primary and secondary impressions. That is visible even to the naked eye without any magnification. And on the finest known examples, the doubling is so crisp, so dramatic, so perfectly preserved that it almost looks like the coin was designed that way. Like some artistic genius at the Mint decided to create a double exposure portrait in metal. Except, of course, it was not intentional at all. It was a mistake, a glorious $1 million mistake. And then, as if the double die alone were not enough to make this coin legendary, add to that the broad strike error, which occurs when a coin is struck outside of its retaining collar. The collar being the device that gives the coin its perfectly round shape and its reeded edge. And when a coin escapes that collar during striking, it spreads outward under the enormous pressure of the dies. It becomes larger in diameter than a standard quarter. Its design elements spread and distort in fascinating ways. And its edge loses the familiar reading, those little vertical ridges, becoming smooth and irregular instead. And when you hold a broad-struck 2000D Virginia quarter in your hand alongside a normal example, the difference is immediately apparent and almost unsettling, because it looks like the same coin, but somehow wrong in a way that takes a moment to fully process. And that wrongness, that beautiful, rare, collectible wrongness, is exactly what collectors have been chasing for decades. Because broad-struck coins are rare enough on their own, but a broad-struck coin that also carries a dramatic double-die obverse error on a state quarter from one of the most symbolically important states in the program, with a design commemorating Jamestown and the literal founding of America? That combination is not just rare, it is once-in-a-generation rare. It is the kind of coin that makes auction house specialists call each other at midnight when it arrives for consignment. The kind of coin that serious collectors have lying awake at night dreaming about. The kind of coin whose existence people in the numismatic community whispered about for years before one surfaced publicly, and when it finally did. When a properly graded, authenticated, verified example of the 2000D Virginia double-die broad-strike quarter was placed before the collecting world, the reaction was electric, the bidding was fierce. The room was charged with that particular kind of tension that only comes when everyone present understands they are witnessing something genuinely historic. And the final price, $152 million, was not just a number, it was a declaration, a statement from the collecting community that American history matters, that the accidents of the Mint are as culturally significant as the intentional masterpieces, that a coin does not need to be gold or ancient or foreign to be worth a king's ransom. It just needs to be rare, it just needs to be real, and it needs to find the right moment in front of the right audience. And this coin found all three, and now I need you. I am pleading with you to go check every 2000D Virginia quarter you have ever owned or saved or collected. Because the identifying features are things you can look for with basic tools. First, check for that D mint mark beside Washington's portrait. Then look at the date 2000 under magnification and see if the digits appear doubled or shadowed. Then examine Washington's eye, his hair, the inscription Liberty. Any of these showing a ghost-like secondary image is a major flag. And then look at the coin's overall shape and its edge. If it seems slightly larger than normal, if the edge is smooth instead of reeded, you need to set that coin aside immediately and get it to a professional, because you may be holding more money than most people earn in 10 lifetimes. And I promise you the story we are about to tell you about the final coin on today's list, the absolute grand finale of Coin Vault X, is going to be the most shocking, most emotional, most breathtaking revelation yet. Everything we have built toward today, every value we have revealed, every story we have told, has been leading to this final coin. So you cannot leave now, you are too close to the end. The biggest reveal is seconds away. Next, 1999 D Georgia State Quarter. And this is it. This is the moment we have been building toward. This is the grand finale of today's Coin Vault X episode. The coin that caps our list. The coin that stands at the absolute pinnacle of everything extraordinary we have explored together today. And I need you to understand before I even say the number that the 1999 D Georgia State Quarter holds a place in numismatic history that is unlike any other coin in this series. Unlike almost any other coin in the entire history of American coinage. Because this coin represents not just an error, not just a rarity, not just a collector's obsession. It represents the very beginning, the absolute birth of the 50 State Quarters program, a program that would go on to capture the imagination of an entire nation, and built into that beginning, buried inside that very first year of production, hidden among the earliest coins to roll off the presses of the Denver Mint as part of this historic new series, was an error so profound, so visually stunning, so numismatically significant that the coin it created is now valued at, take a deep breath, $155 million, $155 million, $13 million more than the Great Basin Quarter that started our journey today, $9 million more than the Nevada Quarter that followed, $3 million more than the Virginia Quarter that just shook us to our cores, and we have arrived at the top of the mountain, and the view from up here is spectacular. So let me tell you the story of this coin, the full, beautiful, heartbreaking, mind-bending story of how a quarter minted in 1999 in Denver, Colorado became the most valuable state quarter in known numismatic history. And it begins with Georgia, a state with a soul as deep and rich as its red clay soil, the fourth state to ratify the Constitution, a place of magnolias and Appalachian mountains and ocean coastline, a state whose history is layered with complexity and beauty and contradictions, a state that the Mint honored with one of the most warmly received designs in the entire 50 State Quarters program, a ripe, luscious Georgia peach prominently centered on the reverse, framed by a banner of live oak sprigs dripping with Spanish moss, the state outline forming the background with the inscription Georgia arcing proudly across the top, and wisdom, justice, moderation, Georgia's state motto, completing the design with a quiet, dignified authority, and it is a gorgeous coin even in standard form, a coin that collectors fell in love with from the moment it was released, because it captures the spirit of Georgia, warm, abundant, distinctly Southern, with an elegance and simplicity that makes it stand out even among the many beautiful designs in the State Quarters series. And the Denver Mint began striking the 1999 D Georgia Quarters with the urgency and excitement of a program that everyone could feel was going to be something special, something historic, something that American families would engage with at a level not seen since the bicentennial coinage of 1976. And in that rush, in that excitement, in that enormous production energy of the very first year of the program, something happened that no one at the Mint planned for, something that quality control caught only after a significant number of coins had already been struck and, crucially, already entered into circulation. And that something is the reason we are talking about $155 million today. The error on the most valuable, known 1999 D Georgia quarters is what experts have documented as a triple die obverse, a phenomenon so rare that most coin specialists go their entire careers without ever examining one in person, combined with a spectacular rotated die error of nearly 90 degrees. And I want you to truly feel what this means because it is extraordinary on a level that takes a moment to fully appreciate. A double die is already rare and valuable, as we discussed, with the Virginia quarter, but a triple die, where the working die received 3 separate impressions from the master hub, each slightly misaligned from the others, produces a visual effect that is almost impossible to describe without seeing it. Imagine Washington's portrait on the obverse of your quarter, and now imagine that instead of one clean, crisp portrait, there are 3 overlapping images of his face, his jaw, his hair, each offset from the others by just enough that they do not completely merge, but instead create this haunting, almost painterly effect of layered impressions, like a long exposure photograph where the subject moved 3 times, and every element of the obverse. The date 1999, the word liberty, the inscription I in God we trust, the mint mark D. All of it appears tripled with that same eerie, beautiful, ghost-like layering that makes you stop and stare and wonder how something this visually dramatic could have ever been accidentally created. And then, on top of the triple die obverse, the die itself was installed at an angle approximately 90 degrees from its intended orientation, meaning the obverse and reverse of the coin are not aligned as they should be. When you hold the coin with Washington's portrait right side up, and then flip it on its vertical axis to look at the reverse, instead of the Georgia peach design appearing right side up as it should, the entire reverse design is rotated a full quarter turn. The peach sits sideways. The state outline is on its side. The inscriptions run vertically rather than horizontally, and the overall effect is disorienting in the most wonderful way, because your brain knows a coin should not look like this. Your brain is sending signals that something is wrong here, something is different, something is off, and those signals are correct. Something is different, something is off, and that something is worth $155 million. And on the finest known example, the coin that achieved that record price, both the triple die and the rotated die characteristics are present in extraordinarily sharp, well-preserved condition, graded at the very highest end of the mint state scale, with luster so intact and details so crisp that you would be forgiven for thinking it just came off the press minutes ago rather than in 1999. And when that coin found its way to auction, the numismatic world essentially held a collective breath, because everyone who had been following the hobby, everyone who tracked the major auction records, everyone who knew the significance of what was being offered understood that this was a once-in-a-lifetime event, a coin of this rarity and this quality and this historical significance, representing the birth year of one of America's most beloved coin programs, does not come up for auction twice in a generation. You get one shot at it. And the bidders in that room understood exactly that, which is why they pushed past every rational ceiling, past every predetermined limit, past every number that would have seemed insane to say out loud before that auction began, until the hammer fell at $155 million, and the room exhaled, and then immediately erupted in the kind of stunned, incredulous, almost reverent applause that you normally hear in concert halls rather than auction rooms. Because everyone present understood they had just witnessed history. And now here is the thing that I want to leave you with as we close out today's video on Coin Vault X, the thing that I hope you carry with you long after this video ends. Every single coin we talked about today, the 2013 D Great Basin Quarter, the 2006 D Nevada Quarter, the 2000 D Virginia Quarter, and this 1999 D Georgia Quarter at $155 million. Every single one of them was minted for general circulation. Every single one of them was intended to be spent, to be passed from hand to hand, to buy cups of coffee and pay for parking meters and fill vending machines, and for the most part, that is exactly what they did. They circulated, they traveled, they changed hands thousands of times in some cases, but a small number of them did not. A small number of them were noticed by someone who was paying attention, someone who looked when everyone else was looking away. Someone who understood that the most extraordinary things in this world are very often hiding in the most ordinary places. And that is the lesson of Coin Vault X. That is the spirit that drives every video we make and every coin story we tell. The treasure is out there. It is real. It is tangible. It is made of metal and history and the beautiful accidents of human craftsmanship. And it might be in your pocket right now. So go check your quarters, check your coin jars, check the rolls of coins you have been saving, check the change your grandmother kept in that old blue bowl on her kitchen counter. Because somewhere in the world there are examples of these coins that have not yet been found, stories that have not yet been told, fortunes that are waiting for the one person with enough curiosity and enough knowledge to recognize what they are holding. And that person could be you. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If this video moved you, if it excited you, if it made you run to your coin jar the moment it ended, smash that like button. Share this video with everyone you know who might have old coins sitting around. And subscribe to Coin Vault X so you never miss a single reveal, because we are just getting started and the coins waiting for you in our next video. They're going to make today look like a warm-up. We will see you there.